What happens when the biggest star in women's basketball suddenly goes down with an injury? That's the question fans across the sports world are asking after the latest news involving Caitlin Clark. As one of the most recognizable faces in the Women's National Basketball Association, Clark has helped attract record-breaking TV ratings, sold-out arenas, and millions of new fans. So when reports emerged that she was dealing with another injury, social media exploded almost instantly. Some fans are worried about her recovery. Others are asking what this means for the Indiana Fever and their playoff hopes. And perhaps the biggest question of all, is the WNBA facing a bigger challenge than anyone expected? Across X, YouTube, TikTok, and sports talk shows, people have been debating whether the league has become too dependent on one superstar. Some argue that Caitlin Clark's absence could affect television ratings and ticket sales, while others believe the WNBA has enough rising stars to continue growing regardless of one player's injury. In this video, we're breaking down the latest injury update, fan reactions, expert opinions, and what it could mean for both Caitlin Clark and the future of the WNBA. We'll separate confirmed information from online speculation and explain why this story has become one of the biggest topics in sports. So, is this simply a temporary setback for one of basketball's brightest stars? Or has Caitlin Clark's injury exposed a much bigger conversation about the league's future, its growing popularity, and the pressure placed on a single player? Stay with us until the end, because the full story is more complicated than the viral headlines suggest, and the reaction from fans may reveal just how important Caitlin Clark has become to the future of women's basketball. When people talk about the biggest stars in sports today, names like LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes, and Shohei Ohtani often come up. But over the last 2 years, another athlete has completely changed the conversation. Caitlin Clark. She didn't just become one of the biggest stars in women's basketball. She became one of the biggest stars in all of American sports. Long before she entered the Women's National Basketball Association, Caitlin Clark had already become a national phenomenon. Her incredible three-point shooting, her record-breaking scoring, her ability to fill arenas wherever she played. Millions of fans who had never watched women's college basketball suddenly tuned in just to see her play. Television ratings exploded. Championship games attracted record audiences. Merchandise sold out. Social media clips went viral almost daily. When the Indiana Fever selected Clark with the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, expectations reached levels rarely seen for a rookie. Many believed she wouldn't simply join the league. She would transform it. And in many ways, that's exactly what happened. Attendance increased across the league. Road games featuring the Indiana Fever became some of the hottest tickets in sports. Teams moved games into larger arenas to accommodate demand. National television networks featured the Fever more often than ever before. Everywhere Clark played, people showed up. Not just Indiana fans, basketball fans, families, young girls dreaming of becoming professionals, even casual sports fans curious to see what all the excitement was about. It felt like the beginning of a new era. But with enormous popularity came enormous pressure. Every game became a national event. Every performance became a headline. Every mistake became a social media debate. Few rookies in sports history have entered professional competition under such intense scrutiny. Then came another challenge: physical basketball. The WNBA has always been one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Veteran players had spent years earning their place. No one was going to make life easy for the league's newest superstar. Almost immediately, Clark faced aggressive defenses, hard fouls, constant double teams, relentless physical play. Supporters argued she was receiving unusually tough treatment. Others responded that every great player experiences physical defense and that rookies must adjust. The debate dominated sports media. Every collision became another viral clip. Every controversial foul generated thousands of comments online. Then something happened that many fans had feared from the beginning: injury concerns. When reports emerged that Caitlin Clark was dealing with another injury, social media reacted almost instantly. The conversation quickly shifted away from one player. Instead, people started asking bigger questions. What happens to the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark? What happens to television ratings? Will attendance decline? Has the WNBA become too dependent on one superstar? Those questions spread rapidly across sports talk shows, YouTube channels, podcasts, and social media platforms. Some fans believe the league had become overly reliant on Clark's popularity. Others strongly disagreed. They pointed out that the WNBA features numerous outstanding players who have built the league for decades. Stars like MVPs, Olympic champions, and All-Stars had already established women's basketball long before Clark arrived. From that perspective, Clark accelerated the league's growth rather than creating it. Still, there was no denying her impact. Broadcasters openly discussed record-breaking viewership. Arena attendance increased significantly for games involving Indiana. Merchandise sales reflected enormous interest. Sponsors invested heavily. The numbers spoke for themselves. Whether someone was already a WNBA fan or completely new to the sport, Caitlin Clark had become one of the league's biggest attractions. That made every injury update especially important. Fans weren't only worried about her health. They worried about what her absence could mean for the league's momentum. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever faced their own challenge. Building a championship contender around a young superstar takes time. Clark wasn't expected to carry the franchise alone. The team included experienced veterans and talented young players working together toward long-term success. But naturally, losing a player of Clark's caliber, even temporarily, changes everything. Offensively, defensively, emotionally, the pressure increases for everyone else. Sports analysts began discussing possible scenarios. Could Indiana maintain its position without Clark? Would teammates step into larger roles? How long might recovery take? Those discussions quickly filled television broadcasts. As always, however, another problem appeared. Rumors. Social media moves incredibly fast. Within hours of any injury report, countless unverified claims begin circulating. Some posts exaggerated the severity. Others predicted lengthy absences before official medical updates were released. A few even claimed Clark's season was over without presenting any evidence. This highlights an important issue in today's sports media. Verified information often spreads more slowly than speculation. Fans eager for updates sometimes encounter misleading headlines before official reports become available. That's why it's essential to distinguish between confirmed medical information and internet rumors. Another reason Clark's injuries receive extraordinary attention involves expectations. From the moment she entered the WNBA, many people viewed her not only as a rookie, but as the face of the league's future. That's an enormous burden for any athlete. Professional sports are physically demanding. Even the greatest players experience injuries. LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. Every superstar eventually deals with setbacks. Clark is no exception. Still, because of her unique popularity, every injury becomes front-page news. Another interesting aspect of this story involves fan reactions. Many supporters express concern primarily for Clark's health. Others focused on basketball strategy. Some worried about playoff implications. Others debated whether the league's marketing had become too centered around one player. That final question remains one of the biggest discussions surrounding the WNBA today. Can a league continue growing if its biggest attraction temporarily leaves the court? History suggests successful leagues eventually develop multiple stars rather than relying on one. The NBA evolved from Magic Johnson and Larry Bird to Michael Jordan, then Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and many others. The WNBA appears to be entering a similar period of expansion, with several exciting young players emerging alongside established veterans. That broader perspective is often overlooked during moments of controversy. Instead of focusing only on one injury, it's worth considering how rapidly women's basketball has grown overall. Record attendance, record television audiences, growing sponsorships, increasing media coverage. Those trends extend beyond any single player, even one as influential as Caitlin Clark. Nevertheless, there's no denying her importance. She has become one of the biggest stories in sports. Every update matters. Every game attracts attention. And every challenge she faces becomes part of a much larger conversation about the future of women's basketball. In Part 2, We'll examine the latest injury updates, how fans reacted across social media, and whether concerns about the WNBA's dependence on Caitlin Clark are supported by the evidence. As news of Caitlin Clark's injury spread, the reaction was immediate. Within minutes, sports media outlets, podcasts, YouTube channels, and social media platforms were flooded with discussions. Some fans were simply concerned about her health. Others immediately began asking a much bigger question. What happens to the WNBA if its biggest attraction can't play? That question quickly became the center of the conversation. For months, Caitlin Clark had been one of the league's biggest headlines. Every game she played attracted national attention. Road arenas regularly sold out. Television ratings often climbed whenever the Indiana Fever appeared on the schedule. Even fans who had never watched a WNBA game before found themselves tuning in. Because of that, her injury wasn't viewed as just another player missing time. Many people believed it had the potential to affect the league itself. Social media quickly split into several different camps. The first group focused entirely on Clark's recovery. These fans emphasized that injuries are a normal part of professional sports. Their priority wasn't television ratings or ticket sales. It was making sure one of basketball's brightest young stars had enough time to recover without unnecessary pressure. Another group looked beyond the medical aspect. They argued that Clark's absence could create serious challenges for the Indiana Fever. Without their primary playmaker and one of the league's most dynamic offensive players, the team would need others to step into much larger roles. Basketball is always a team sport, but every team has players who change the entire way opponents prepare. Clark is one of those players. Her shooting range stretches defenses. Her passing creates opportunities. Her court vision changes offensive spacing. Replacing that impact isn't easy. Then came the third, and perhaps most controversial conversation. Some commentators claimed the WNBA had become too dependent on Caitlin Clark. They pointed to attendance numbers, television ratings, merchandise sales, national media coverage. Their argument was straightforward. If one player's absence creates this much discussion, doesn't that suggest the league relies too heavily on her popularity? Others strongly disagreed. They argued that this view ignored the contributions of countless other stars. The WNBA has spent decades building its reputation through elite athletes who helped establish professional women's basketball long before Clark arrived. Players across multiple generations laid the foundation for today's growth. Clark accelerated that momentum, but she didn't create the league from scratch. This debate revealed something important. The conversation was no longer just about an injury. It had become a discussion about the WNBA's identity. Is the league entering a new era driven by multiple superstars? Or has Caitlin Clark become such a major attraction that her absence changes the league's entire landscape? Sports analysts began examining television data. They noted that games featuring Clark often drew significantly larger audiences than average regular season contests. That isn't unusual in sports. The NBA experiences similar patterns with players like LeBron James or Stephen Curry. Major League Baseball benefits when Shohei Ohtani plays. The NFL sees increased attention around Patrick Mahomes. Star players naturally attract viewers. The key question is whether a league can continue growing when those stars aren't available. History suggests the answer is yes, but only if new stars continue emerging. The WNBA appears to be moving in that direction. Young talent continues entering the league. Established veterans remain elite competitors. Championship contenders continue producing exciting basketball. Still, Clark's popularity remains unique. Her influence extends beyond traditional basketball audiences. Many people watching the WNBA today first became interested because of her performances in college. That crossover audience represents one of the league's greatest opportunities. Another major topic involved scheduling. Broadcasters had invested heavily in Indiana Fever games. Networks featured them prominently because viewer demand was exceptionally high. Naturally, Clark's injury raised questions about future broadcasts. Would ratings decline? Would casual viewers continue watching? Or had enough new fans become invested in the league to remain engaged regardless? Those questions don't have immediate answers. Only time will tell. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever faced a practical challenge. Winning games. Professional sports move quickly. Regardless of injuries, every opponent continues preparing to win. Without Clark on the floor, teammates needed to adapt. Coaches adjusted strategies. Rotation changes became necessary. Every player understood that additional responsibility might fall on their shoulders. Many sports analysts pointed out that injuries sometimes reveal unexpected opportunities. Young players receive more minutes. Veterans assume leadership roles. Teams discover strengths they hadn't fully explored before. That perspective offered optimism amid uncertainty. Still, internet speculation continued growing. Some posts claimed Clark had been rushed back too quickly. Others insisted she would miss far more games than officially reported. A few even suggested the injury could permanently affect her career. At the time those claims circulated, many lacked confirmation from official medical sources. This demonstrates one of the biggest challenges facing modern sports coverage. Speed often takes priority over accuracy. A dramatic rumor spreads faster than a carefully verified report. As a result, fans sometimes encounter conflicting information before official updates become available. Another fascinating aspect of this story involves expectations placed upon young athletes. Clark entered professional basketball carrying extraordinary attention. Every performance is analyzed. Every interview becomes news. Every injury sparks nationwide debate. Very few rookies in sports history have experienced that level of scrutiny. Supporters argue that such pressure comes with superstar status. Critics counter that unrealistic expectations can become unfair. Both perspectives highlight the unique position Clark occupies within modern sports. Beyond basketball, this story also reflects how rapidly women's sports have grown. Only a few years ago, an injury involving one WNBA rookie likely wouldn't dominate national headlines for days. Today, it does. That change itself represents remarkable progress. More people are paying attention. More media outlets provide coverage. More sponsors invest. More fans engage with the league. Those trends suggest women's basketball has reached a new level of mainstream relevance. In many ways, the intense reaction to Clark's injury proves exactly how valuable the WNBA has become, not just how important one player is. Yet the debate continues. Can the league maintain its momentum during Clark's absence? Will other stars seize the spotlight? Or will this moment reinforce concerns that too much attention has been concentrated on one athlete? Those questions remain unanswered. But one thing is certain. Every update involving Caitlin Clark now carries significance far beyond one basketball game. Her recovery, the Indiana Fever's performance, and the league's continued growth have all become part of one of the biggest stories in professional sports. In Part 3, we'll explore how players, analysts, and fans responded to the controversy, examine whether the criticism of the WNBA is justified, and look at what Caitlin Clark's injury could mean for the league's future. As the debate surrounding Caitlin Clark continued to dominate sports headlines, another question began taking over social media. Is the WNBA really facing a crisis? Or is the internet exaggerating the situation? Depending on who you ask, the answer is completely different. For some fans, Clark's injury highlighted just how important she has become to the league. For others, the nonstop discussion actually overlooked the incredible talent spread across the WNBA. And that's where the story becomes much more interesting. When Clark entered the league, she brought millions of new viewers with her. Many of those fans had followed her remarkable college career. Others simply wanted to see whether she could live up to the enormous expectations surrounding her. Almost overnight, television ratings increased. Attendance reached record highs. Merchandise sales climbed dramatically. The Indiana Fever became one of the league's biggest attractions. There's little debate about those facts. What remains debated is what happens when the league's biggest attraction isn't available to play. Sports analysts quickly offered different opinions. Some believed the WNBA had a perfect opportunity to prove it was much bigger than one superstar. Others worried that casual fans who originally came to watch Clark might lose interest if she missed significant time. History offers examples supporting both arguments. When legends like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, or LeBron James missed games because of injuries, television audiences often declined. That's normal. Superstars attract attention. But none of those leagues collapsed because one player missed time. Instead, other stars stepped forward. The same could happen in the WNBA. One reason is simple. The league has never had more talent than it does today. Championship contenders feature experienced veterans. Young stars continue emerging every season. Olympic athletes compete night after night. The level of basketball remains exceptionally high. Clark may attract many first-time viewers, but she isn't the only reason fans continue watching. Still, social media rarely rewards balanced opinions. Instead, extreme headlines spread the fastest. Posts claiming the WNBA is finished generated thousands of reactions. Others declared that the league will be just fine. Reality likely falls somewhere between those two extremes. The league certainly benefits from Caitlin Clark's popularity. At the same time, years of growth, investment, and player development have created a much stronger foundation than many critics acknowledge. Another fascinating aspect of this debate involves expectations placed on one athlete. Imagine entering your first professional season with millions of people expecting you not only to succeed, but to transform an entire sport. That's an extraordinary amount of pressure. Every great performance becomes proof that you're changing history. Every poor game becomes national news. Every injury sparks debates about the future of the league. Very few athletes have carried that kind of responsibility so early in their careers. Many former players have pointed this out. They've reminded fans that Clark is still adjusting to professional basketball. The WNBA schedule is demanding. The competition is elite. Physical play is intense. Every rookie faces challenges. Clark simply experiences them under a much brighter spotlight. Another important conversation involves media coverage. Critics argue that sports networks focus too heavily on Caitlin Clark while overlooking other outstanding players. Supporters respond that media organizations naturally cover stories generating the greatest audience interest. Both perspectives contain elements of truth. Media companies often prioritize stories that attract viewers. At the same time, balanced coverage remains important for showcasing the league's depth. This discussion existed even before Clark's injury. Her absence simply brought it back into focus. Then there are the fans themselves. One of the most positive developments has been seeing longtime WNBA supporters welcome millions of new viewers. Others, however, have expressed frustration when online debates become overly centered on one player. They argue that the league's history deserves equal recognition. After all, today's growth didn't happen overnight. It reflects decades of effort by athletes who helped build professional women's basketball long before Clark entered the league. Acknowledging Clark's enormous impact doesn't diminish those earlier contributions. Both can be true simultaneously. As speculation continued, another rumor started spreading online. Some claimed the WNBA would experience dramatic declines in attendance and television ratings without Clark. While it's reasonable to expect some games to attract fewer viewers if a marquee player is unavailable, predicting a league-wide collapse goes far beyond the available evidence. Professional sports have repeatedly shown the ability to adapt. New stars emerge. Unexpected storylines capture attention. Championship races become more exciting. Competition itself remains the biggest attraction. Perhaps the most important lesson from this entire situation is how quickly narratives develop. A single injury update evolved into debates about television ratings, marketing strategies, league economics, media priorities, and the future of women's basketball. That's remarkable. It demonstrates how much attention the WNBA now receives. Only a few years ago, these conversations rarely reached mainstream sports audiences. Today, they dominate headlines. In many ways, that's evidence of the league's continued growth rather than its weakness. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark remained focused on what athletes always prioritize during recovery: getting healthy, returning to competition, helping her team win. Professional athletes understand injuries are part of the game. The challenge isn't avoiding every setback. It's responding to them. Fans naturally want immediate answers. When will she return? Will she be the same player? Can Indiana stay competitive? Those questions will ultimately be answered on the court, not on social media. For now, one thing remains clear. Whether someone believes the WNBA is facing a crisis or simply navigating a temporary challenge, Caitlin Clark has undeniably become one of the most influential athletes in modern sports. Her recovery matters. Her team's performance matters. And the conversations surrounding her continue revealing just how much women's basketball has grown in popularity. Is Caitlin Clark's injury just an unfortunate setback that every athlete eventually faces, or has it exposed bigger questions about the future of the Women's National Basketball Association? Recent discussions around officiating, player safety, and the league's growing popularity have only added fuel to the debate. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from real WNBA fans. Do you think the Indiana Fever can stay competitive while Caitlin recovers? Which player do you believe has the biggest opportunity to step up? If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest WNBA coverage. On this channel, we bring you breaking WNBA news, game analysis, injury updates, player stories, trade rumors, power rankings, and everything happening around the league. Whether it's Caitlin Clark, Aya Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Angel Reese, Sabrina Ionescu, or the next rising superstar, we've got you covered all season long. We're building a community of passionate basketball fans who love smart discussions and in-depth coverage of the women's game. So, if that's you, make sure you're part of the conversation. Thanks for watching until the end. Your support helps us continue creating WNBA content every week. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the games, support the players, and we'll see you in the next WNBA update.